Mixed martial arts is a sport filled with colorful characters and storylines that'll give European cinema a run for its money. The Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, the world's premier MMA organization, features martial art bouts between the world's top fighters, which in turn results in the creation of several exciting stylistic matchups and compelling narratives. Some mysterious happenings from the UFC are simply outlandish and absurd. Welcome to Bizarre Cases. In today's video, we'll be talking about UFC Unsolved Mysteries. Without further ado, let's walk onto the edge of the unknown. And serious or comical, let's take a look at some of the best. Number 5. Jon Jones's mysterious hacker. Jon Bones Jones, 22-1, is a former UFC light heavyweight champion and former interim light heavyweight champion with an MMA base of wrestling and Muay Thai. Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson, who is 17-4, is a Swedish kickboxer and MMA fighter with a base of boxing, kickboxing, and street fighting. Jones faced Gustafsson at UFC 165 in 2013, a fight in which the build-up was as crazy as the fight. Jones got into an online argument with a Swedish MMA fan, proceeding to unleash a tirade of homophobic slurs at him. The fan went on to accuse Jones of blocking him on Twitter and posted screenshots of his online conversations with Bones. Jones and his manager, Maliki Kawa, denied responsibility of any wrongdoing on their part, claiming that Jones's mobile phone was stolen and his online accounts were hacked. They stated that the homophobic online rants posted against the Swedish fan via Jones's accounts were posted by the phone thief and hacker, and that Jones was innocent. What's more hilarious is that Jones had posted a selfie of himself after the homophobic posts were updated on his online accounts. Hence, the question arose, how did Jon Jones post his selfie after his phone was, as he alleged, stolen? This left Jones and Kawa red-faced, with the situation being hushed up eventually. Number 4. Canada's conspiracy against Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz, who is 26-9-2, is a former Strikeforce welterweight champion with an MMA base of boxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. George Rush St. Pierre is a former two-time UFC welterweight champion and former interim welterweight champion with an MMA base of Kyokushin karate, wrestling, and boxing. GSP defended his UFC welterweight strap against Diaz at UFC 158 in 2013 in St. Pierre's backyard of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. The build-up to the fight was in equal parts tense as well as hilarious, with GSP being MMA's white knight and charming gentleman, while Diaz played the familiar role of a Stockton bad boy. The trash talk between the two was comedy gold. On the day of the weigh-ins, an official from the Quebec State Athletic Commission informed Diaz and his team off record that both St. Pierre and Diaz are being allotted a 1-pound weight difference for their 170-pound title matchup. This sent Diaz and his team off the rails, with Nick, Nate, Shields, and the rest of the scrap pack accusing GSP of missing weight. Nevertheless, the weigh-ins took place and GSP did make weight, proceeding to win a dominant unanimous decision over Diaz. But that wasn't all. Diaz went on to accuse GSP of using steroids for their UFC 158 fight, and also claimed that GSP's cornerman, Phil Nurse, had drugged him before he faced off with the Canadian champion inside the octagon. Over the course of 4 years from 2013 to 2017, Diaz has continually levied accusations against GSP, even going to the extent of hiring a legal team in an attempt to prosecute St. Pierre and the Quebec State Athletic Commission. Whether it's suspicious weigh-ins or spiked eatables, GSP on steroids, or discriminatory athletic commissions, Nick Diaz's conspiracy theories never get old. Number 3. Anderson Silva's unknown pill suppliers. Anderson the Spider Silva, who's 34-8-1, is a former UFC middleweight champion with a record 10 title defenses to his name. Silva's MMA base is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Capoeira, and Taekwondo. After suffering a horrific leg break in his rematch against Chris Weidman, Silva returned to face Nick Diaz at UFC 183 in 2015, beating him by unanimous decision. The unanimous decision got overturned to a no contest owing to Silva failing his pre-fight drug tests for drostanolone and androstane, or anabolic steroids, as well as anti-anxiety drugs oxazepam and temazepam. Now, although Silva confessed to using the anti-anxiety medications, Spider gave one of the most absurd excuses for the steroids found in his system. At the Nevada State Athletic Commission disciplinary hearing, Silva and his legal team stated that Silva's steroid test failure resulted from his usage of a sexual performance enhancement drug that was given to him by a friend of his who bought it from Thailand. The pill trader from whom Silva's friend procured the sex pill was never revealed, and the situation resolved after the NSAC fined Spider $380,000 and overturned his win to a no contest. Following in his close friend's footsteps, John Jones most recently blamed his own failed drug test for clomiphene and letrozole on tainted erectile dysfunction pills that he bought from a local store. Anderson Silva's sex pill excuse is a running joke in the MMA community to date. GSP, Penn, Greasegate featuring Dana White, Mayhem, Hughes, and many more. BJ Penn, who is 16-11-2, is a Hawaiian former UFC welterweight and lightweight champion, with an MMA base of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and boxing. George Russ St. Pierre, who's 25-2, is a former two-time UFC welterweight champion and former interim welterweight champion, widely considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. GSP faced Penn at UFC 58 in 2006, edging him in a close split decision. The rematch took place at UFC 94 in 2009, with GSP's UFC welterweight strap on the line. After a close first round, GSP's corner was caught applying Vaseline all over his torso, covering his back and shoulders with grease, thereby making him a slippery target in grappling exchanges. Round 2 began and GSP took over the fight, executing a beautiful chain wrestling strategy whilst simultaneously peppering Penn with a constant dosage of jabs. St. Pierre dominated his opponent from bell to bell through rounds 2 through 4. Penn's corner threw in the towel after the 4th round ended, making GSP the victor by way of TKO. All hell broke loose after the fight, with Dana White screaming at the top of his lungs, shouting profanities. Penn and his camp went on to pursue a legal case against GSP in what is now infamously referred to as Greasegate, or the lesser-used Vaseline Gate. Several past GSP opponents, namely Jason Mayhem Miller, Matt Hughes, Sean Shirk, and others rode Penn's coattails, claiming that they found St. Pierre to be excessively slippery during their respective bouts against the Canadian legend. Nevertheless, the Nevada State Athletic Commission found St. Pierre to be not guilty and shut down Penn & Company's greasing allegations. Despite GSP being rubbed down by his corner before the commencement of the 2nd round, Penn and the other fighters made no bones about their accusations on the Canadian. St. Pierre's Greasegate controversy remains one of the more talked about incidents in MMA history. Whether or not St. Pierre and his corner's actions were intentional remains unknown. Number 1. Mir and Overeem steroid-abusing kangaroos and horses. Frank Mir, who is 18-11, is a former UFC heavyweight champion and former interim heavyweight champion, with an MMA base of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Kenpo, and boxing. Alistair the Reem Overeem, who is 41-15-1, is a Dutch kickboxer and MMA fighter, former Strikeforce and Dream heavyweight champion, and K1 Grand Prix world champion. Ubereem has an MMA base of kickboxing, judo, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mir failed the fight night drug test before his first-round KO loss to Mark Hunt in 2016 in Brisbane, Australia. He tested positive for oral turinabol metabolites, which he later blamed on tainted kangaroo meat in the land of the Roos. Seriously. He also went on to give a detailed explanation of how kangaroo breeders in Australia inject the animals with steroids in order to enable quick breeding and growth. When queried where he had eaten said kangaroo meat, Mir stated that he nor his team member remember which restaurant they had eaten at the day before the fight. On the other hand, Overeem Megareem, who failed a pre-fight drug test in 2012 before his fight against then-champion Junior Dos Santos. Ironically, Junior Dos Santos faced Overeem's fellow meat lover Frank Mir at UFC 146. Had a whopping 14-1 testosterone to epitestosterone or TE ratio. Now, with the permitted ratio for male fighters being a mere 4-1, it goes without saying that Overeem's levels were not just abnormally high, they were otherworldly. Overeem and his team blamed the failed test on an anti-inflammatory medication recommended by a doctor to him that was tainted with excessive testosterone. Considering the fact that Overeem went from a skinny fighter getting knocked out by Mauricio Rua and Chuck Liddell to a hulking 265-pound-plus behemoth, destroying the Dream and Strikeforce roster. He credited his incredible body transformation to horse meat and good genetics, claiming that he achieved his muscular frame owing to consuming horse meat 8 times a day. Although several boxers and kickboxers have used the tainted meat excuse in the past, Frank Mir has entrenched his name in the annals of MMA lore as the infamous pioneer of the tainted kangaroo meat excuse. Beware of Mir's tainted kangaroos and Overeem's mythical horses. All of them are on steroids. From Jones's mysterious hacker to Nick Diaz's multitude of conspiracy theories, Anderson Silva's secret Thai sex pill to GSP's Vaseline victory, only the mythical kangaroos and horses can top such a unique list. Keeping up with our combat tradition, I'd like you, the reader, to add your own set of UFC mysteries in the comments.